when you're driving your car, you don't use a lot of conscious thought. Your subconscious mind drives the car. You're carrying on a conversation with somebody behind you. You could be reaching for something in your pocket. You could be, trying to dial a number on your phone. God knows what you're doing, but you're not consciously driving the car. Now, let's suppose you're on a highway and you're driving along, subconscious is driving the car, but it's raining. And it's raining pretty hard. And you're going to try and go past a tractor trailer, and there's a heavy overspray from it. You will flip back onto conscious control. You'll probably tighten your grip on the wheel, and you move out, and you're going to go past that truck. Now, you may drop back and go back behind the truck because you see something coming. But then you go out again. You're consciously driving the car. Well, I was thinking about that when Scott was talking about it this morning, and I was thinking, there's times when you're just living, just normal, everyday working, when you should flip back over onto conscious control. When you get into an environment where people are bitching and griping and moaning and complaining, or all they want to talk about is how many people have died or how many people have got this virus, listen, I'm not saying that we should ignore it, but I don't think we should spend a lot of time talking about it. We're not going to do ourselves a lot of good talking about something that's destructive or negative. I think we should spend our time talking about how we can make things happen. So there's some environments you're going to go into where they don't do any of this. They don't study any of this material. They're controlled by the outside world. And these may be people that you love. They could be family members. So you don't want to ignore them. And you don't want to not see them. I often say you just don't go as often and you don't stay as long. But when you go into that environment, flip back over onto conscious control. Be consciously aware of what's going on. Don't leave your mind wide open for them to dump a lot of stuff into. Now, I want you to think of how powerful your paradigm is with this one concept about being real concerned with what other people think. Now you may say, well, I'm really not concerned. Well, you probably are. You probably are. And it started when we were little kids. When we were just little kids, what would the neighbors think? I always say they don't, so don't worry about it. But the truth is, we're concerned. And if we're going to act like the person we want to become, the people we're surrounded by aren't used to us acting that way. And they're liable to say, what are you doing that for? What are you acting like that for? You think you're acting like a millionaire or a billionaire? We're concerned with what they think. Now, in these 3 lessons, I could start with any one of them. Let's start with the one, my mind. Now, Scott, if you'll throw the screen up for a moment. I want you to imagine that the white screen is everything. It's everything. That's all spirit. Where's spirit? Spirit's everywhere. Now, I don't care what religion you go to. If you say, where's God? They'll tell you God's everywhere. God's all-powerful, all-knowing and all-powerful. All-powerful, all-knowing, ever-present. So let the white there represent that. Then we say, now, let this represent you or me. And there's the mind, and we'll divide it. Now, you are made out of this white energy. You are made out of this spirit. You are a spiritual being. The essence of you is spiritual. Now, everything's spirit. This television spirit. My phone is spirit. This pen that I'm writing with is spirit. My suit is spirit. You say, no, spirit's not your suit. Oh, spirit's everywhere except in Bob's suit. It's 100% evenly present in all places at the same time, except Bob's suit. No, spirit is in a garden rock. You say, well, it's not in a garden rock. Oh, well, spirit's 100% evenly present in all places at the same time, except in a garden rock. No, the rock is vibrating. The rock is vibrating. It's vibrating at a different speed than my suit, but it's vibrating. Everything vibrates. The law of vibration decrees everything moves, nothing rests. You are vibrating. And the vibration you're in is going to dictate what you attract into your life. Now, do you see, your mind is a center of divine operation. Is my mind a center? Yeah. How could my mind be center and your mind be center? Because there's more than one center. When you're dealing with, let's say, a basketball, there's only one center in the basketball, and that's determined by the outer measurements of the ball. But we're not dealing with something with outer measurements. There are no outer measurements. We're talking about being infinite. That's why Troward says, my mind is a center of divine operation. The divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. This means the production of something beyond what's gone before. So we should be going after something. If we're in harmony with the essence of who we are with Spirit, we should always be working towards something bigger. I'm going to share some information with you that it could change the direction of your life like night and day. And when I say that, I want you to really stop and take a look at your life. Take an honest look at your life. I was thinking just before I start to make this, we have actually been conditioned to kid with ourselves, to lie to ourselves, to not really take an honest look at the results we're getting. I want you to take a real honest look at your results. And when you look at them, ask yourself, am I living the way I really want to live? You see, most people aren't. One of the first questions I ask a person that comes to work with me, I want to know what's the most they've ever earned in a year. Now, I really don't care what the answer is, but I want to know what the answer is. Because you see, if a person says the most they've ever earned in a year is $50,000, I know where their mind is programmed. If they tell me the most they've ever earned is $250,000, I know where they're programmed. And then I want to find out what they want. And I know then what has to shift. Because their mind is programmed, and if they're really going to live the way they want to live, they've got to change the program. And if they don't change the program, then nothing really happens. Now, what I'm going to share with you, I've been studying for a long time. I'm going to put some PowerPoint slides right up here. And on those PowerPoints, I'm going to tell you a story. And it's a story about me, and it's a story about you, and it's a story about what we're capable of doing, what we're really capable of doing. You see, I started to study this information 54 years ago. In fact, last October, I started my 55th year of studying this. Now, that's longer than probably many of you are living, maybe longer than your parents have been living. But I've studied it every day. I've become absolutely fascinated with this information. And as I go through this, I think you're going to be fascinated with it. Now, I didn't always have this information. Today, I have a company that operates all over the world. I earn millions of dollars. I have some wonderful friends. And I live an interesting life. When I wake up in the morning, I know that I'm going to be doing what I love all day long, and I'm going to be extremely well paid for it. But you know, it wasn't always like that. I have to go back to 1961. And in 1961, a man gave me this book. And that's when everything in my life started to change. The book is Think and Grow Rich. And there was a huge shift in the direction of my life. Now, I'm not going to be on here long, maybe, I don't know, an hour. But in that hour, I'm going to suggest that you could change everything in your life. You see, today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision. But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are. We have to make decisions. If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going. And when we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction. Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are. Now, I had something pretty interesting happen. When I committed to study this material every day and follow proven direction, the change that took place was enormous. And you know, it can be for you. Now, there's one thing that you absolutely require if you're going to make a big change, and that's discipline. See, without discipline, nothing happens. Now, I found that discipline is the ability to give ourselves a command and then follow it. Now, I'm going to suggest as we go through this, and I suggest you make some decisions. Don't look at somebody else and say, what are you going to do? You see, what they're going to do has absolutely nothing to do with where you're going. It's what are you going to do? That's what really makes the difference. Now, I've worked with tens of thousands of people all over the world, and I've watched some absolutely phenomenal changes take place. I've watched kids go from a C&D average to an honors mark almost overnight. I would have difficulty counting all the people that have gone from ordinary incomes to multi-million dollars. You see, earning money is not difficult. It's just that hardly anyone knows how to do it. And for good reason. We can go right to our school system and no one ever teaches us how to earn money. And for good reason, they don't know how to earn money. Now, is earning money all this is about? Absolutely not. This is about living the way you want to live. Now, I've been traveling all over the world. I started to study this, and great change took place, and then I wanted to know why I changed. And so I started to study it from a different perspective. I want to know what happened to me, which I'll talk again about in a moment. And so I began to study, and then when I figured it out, got the dots to connect, all I wanted to do was share it with other people. And everywhere I've gone around the world, I have found that people are essentially the same. Now, I've worked in China, I've worked in South America, I've worked in Australia, New Zealand, all over Asia, across all over North America, and certainly all over Europe. And people are essentially the same. Doesn't matter where you go. I don't care if you're in Shanghai, in Kosovo, or New York City. I have found that there's three things. You know, frequently after a seminar, I'll sit around and I'll chat with some of the people, maybe that were late leaving the room, and I'll call them aside and I'll say, what do you really want? And I found that not everybody wants to be really wealthy. But what they do want, they want to eliminate any financial concerns. In other words, if they want to get a new car, they want to be able to get it. If they want to take a trip, they want to be able to take the trip. Or if they see a sweater or a dress or a suit they'd like, they want to be able to buy it. They don't want to be wondering, am I going to have enough to pay the mortgage? They want to eliminate financial concerns. The second thing they want is they want to wake up in the morning and be excited about how they're going to spend their day. See, a lot of people are tied up in traffic, going to a job they don't like, working for somebody that is possibly even incompetent. You got to spend your days doing what you absolutely love to do. And the third thing, they want to mix with people who were really upbeat, who are enthusiastic, people that are becoming very creatively productive. Now, that is a pretty good way to live. You don't have any financial concerns. You spend your days doing what you love with people who are upbeat and creatively productive. That's a good way to live. That's the way I live today, but it wasn't always like that. No, it sure wasn't. I had a man sit down with me, and he did essentially what I'm going to do with you right now. He said, Bob, I want you to take a look at the results you're getting in your life. Really take a look at the results. And then he got me to think. He said, how do results happen, Bob? How do they actually happen? And I didn't know. He says, do results just happen? Well, of course, results don't just happen. And this is where the man approached me back in 1961. He said, I want to magnify the results that you're getting in your life. Really take a close look at it. Because he said people are just falling short in a couple of areas. And he pointed out that we're only limited by weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. In other words, we got to stay focused and we've got to use our imagination to build the kind of world we really want. Now, I think that's what you want to do. That's what I want to do. I don't think you were looking for something to do when you sat down to watch this. You see, I believe that you do want to improve the quality of your life. And a man named Reese Stanford sat down with me a long time ago in 1961. And he put an R on a sheet of paper. And then he put an H. He said, Bob, that's happiness. He said, that represents health. And that represents wealth. Now, he said, I want you to look at those three areas of your life. Are you getting what you want to get? Are you doing what you want to do? He said, I'm going to tell you something about results. Results always tell the truth. By their fruits you'll know them. Results always tell the truth. You can kid yourself all over the place if you want, but look at the results. I have people, they'll tell me how much they know about this or about that. Take a look at the results. The results tell the truth. If you're playing golf, the scorecard tells the truth. You see? Now think. Your bank account tells the truth. Your sales tell the truth. Your position in life, the health of your body. And he looked at all these areas and he said, do you think I'm a healthy guy? And I said, yeah, you seem pretty healthy to me. He said, have you ever seen me sick? I said, no. He said, have you ever seen me broke? No. You think I'm a happy guy? And I said, yeah. He was a healthy guy. Happy. Always had a roll of money on him. Well, he said, you know something? You're one of the most miserable people I've ever met. And I was. And he said, you're always sick. And he said, you're always broke. Now, he was being kind. I was earning $4,000 a year at the time. But look at this. I owed $6,000. That is not a good position to be in. You see, if I had taken every cent I earned for 18 months and paid debts, I would have just broken even. It was an impossible situation. He said, Bob, why don't you change your results? Do you know something? I honestly don't believe that ever entered my mind. I really don't. You say, well, it must have. No, I don't think it did. I think I got up in the morning and I just went to work. I did whatever I was doing and hoping things would get better, but never sitting down and talking to someone that really knew how to make it happen. If you want to fly a plane, you don't go to a barber and ask them, how do you get the plane off the ground? If you want to learn how to dance, you don't go to a mechanic. You go to a damn good dancer. It doesn't matter what you want to do. If you're going to do something, go to someone who has demonstrated results. Now, this guy had demonstrated he was happy, he was healthy, and he was wealthy. And he said, do you ever read anything? And I said, no, I can't read. Now, that wasn't true. I could, not well, but I could. And that's when he introduced me to this book, Think and Grow Rich. And he said, Bob, if you do exactly what I tell you, and you study this book and do exactly what the author tells you, he said, everything in your life will change. Now, he said, the man that wrote this book, Napoleon Hill, spent his whole life putting this together. It contains the best thinking of over 500 of the world's most successful people. Listen, I've been reading this one now since 1961. Now, think about that. That's a long time. He said he spent his whole life writing this. He said, I think it would be a very prudent move on your part if you spent your life trying to understand and apply it. Now, I don't know why, but I decided I would. Now, let me explain where I was starting from. I told you I was earning $4,000 and I owed $6,000. See? I had 2 months high school. 2 months high school. That was my formal education. I had never had a half-decent job. I just bounced from one job to another, in the bar, working in a bar, in the Navy, out of the Navy, working in factories. I've never had a half-decent job. Now, I had every reason why I couldn't win. He said, Bob, there are reasons why you can't. You've got to quit thinking of those. You've got to start thinking of how you can. He said, do exactly what I tell you. And so, you know something? I decided I would. 1 year later, I was earning $175,000. My life changed like night and day. You say, well, what were you doing? I was cleaning offices. And then I took it over $1 million. I started cleaning one office. I would do anything honest to earn money. I was earning about $100 a week, and I got an office to clean where I would wash the floor twice a month, and I got $30. Then I got another office, $65 a month. Kirby's Construction. Now I'm up to an extra $100 a month. Do you know in less than 5 years I was cleaning offices in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, and London, England? Went right through the roof. Now, if you had asked me what I was doing, I couldn't tell you. I would say I'm cleaning offices. I'm reading Think and Grow Rich. But you know, a lot of people were cleaning offices. They weren't doing what I was doing. A lot of people had read Think and Grow Rich. They weren't doing what I was doing. Now, I was trying to figure out how the heck did this happen? See, I had been raised to believe if you're going to earn a lot of money, you've got to be really smart. Well, I knew I wasn't that smart, but I was earning a lot of money. I was raised to believe if you're going to have a good job, you have to have a good formal education. I didn't have a good formal education. I didn't have a good job. I owned the whole company. And so I started to study. You see? I thought, I'm believing in lies. You don't have to be smart to earn a lot of money. There's people that are functionally illiterate. They can neither read nor write, and they're earning millions of dollars. There's people heading up large corporations that've never been inside a school. Now I'm not anti-school. I've made sure all my kids went through school. I just changed the question. I didn't ask them if they were going to go. I asked them where they were going to go. I'm mentioning this because I believe anyone can do anything if they can sit down and write it out on a piece of paper and then work at changing what's going on inside. See, in 1990, Joel Barker wrote a book. It's called Paradigms. He said to be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm. Now, I had no idea what a paradigm was. And you might ask yourself, do you really know what a paradigm is? Do you understand how the mind works? Because the paradigm has something to do with the mind. I knew nothing about it. But the man that encouraged me to study this put me on a track where I just kept going from one great mentor to another. I was living in Chicago at the time, and I heard about a man in Vancouver. I was trying to figure out why I changed. I had left my own business. I went to work with Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant in Chicago. Ended up being their vice president of sales. I would have gone there. I would have paid them to let me work there. I wanted to work with Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant because I wanted to study. I wanted to know, why did I change? I knew I wasn't lucky. And I heard about a man in Vancouver. Somebody said, Bob, you should go and listen to him. So I got on a plane and I flew out to Vancouver. At the end of the seminar, when the guy got on the stage, I knew that he knew what he was talking about. There was just such certainty in his talk. And so at the end of the seminar, I said, I would like to sit down with you for a couple hours. But he said, I'd like to probably sit down with you for a couple hours. But he looked at his watch. He said, I got to get out of here. And I said, I got to go now too. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going back to Chicago. He said, what are you doing out here? I said, I come out to hear you speak. Now, I think he was impressed that I had traveled so far to listen to him. So I said, look, I'm not going to be in Chicago anytime in the near future, but I'm going to be in Toronto. And I said, I'm from Toronto. I'll fly over. I'll meet you over there. And so the two of us sat down in the Skyline Hotel. And we were there. We were supposed to be 3 hours. We were there for about 3 days. And he and I were as thick as thieves right up until he died. Now, he introduced me to this idea that I'm going to introduce you to. And what I'm going to show you is, without question, the most powerful idea I have ever learned. And if you don't understand this, the odds of you making great changes are very, very slim. I want you to look at the mind and then look at paradigms. But let's personalize it. Let's look at your mind and your paradigm. Now, let that drawing represent your mind. That, by the way, is the most valuable concept I have ever learned. There's the conscious mind, the subconscious, and the body. Okay? Now, the conscious mind is the thinking mind. Do you know that the average person does not think? Do you know that thinking is a subject that's not taught in school? You'll say everybody thinks. Hardly anyone thinks. I remember Earl Nightingale used to say, if the average person said what they were thinking, they would be speechless. Do you know what we do? We confuse mental activity with thinking. That's not thinking. Listen to what most people are saying. They'd never say what they're saying if they were thinking. Watch their behavior. They'd never do what they're doing if they were thinking. Back in 1981, I picked up a paper from Dr. Lawrence Rampell. Listen to what he said. Thinking is a skill which can be learned just as we learn skills such as typing and playing the piano. Few public schools offer courses devoted expressly to teaching thinking. Rather, we are expected to learn and teach thinking as a byproduct of learning mathematics, reading, history, science, a trade, and so forth. And we do learn a lot about thinking in that way. The trouble is we learn our thinking skills in bits and pieces, and we never put it together as an overall picture. If asked to describe what all is required in order to think effectively, most of us would be at a loss to give a complete account. Thus, we are unable to assess our own thinking skills or systematically teach the skill of thinking to others. Well, it's with your conscious mind you think. This is also what we call the educated mind. And I'm going to come back to that because I'm going to show you just how far off track we get with that. Now, this is where our intellect is resident. And it's the intellectual factors that give you the ability to be the creative ability. You say you're created in God's image? Well, that's where the creative faculty comes in. In our intellectual factors, you have perception, the will, reason, imagination, memory, intuition. Now, the subconscious mind is quite different from the conscious mind. That's what we call the emotional mind. See, the conscious mind can think, so therefore you have the ability to choose. You literally choose where you're going. Now, the choice may be unconscious, but it is a choice. You have the ability here to accept or reject information. When we see something come on the news about the economy's taking a dive, say maybe for them or you, but not for me. You've got the ability to reject information. Somebody starts to tell you a bad story, reject it. Now think. You have the ability to accept or reject in your conscious mind. You have the ability to originate ideas in your conscious mind. You can originate any idea you want. Now, your subconscious mind has no ability to reject. It must accept. And here's something else. Whatever's placed in the subconscious mind is going to dictate your world. It really will. And your imagination or your subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what you imagine and what's real. So if you imagine something happening and you get emotionally involved, it's actually starting to happen. You may say, well, that's ridiculous. Well, the Wright brothers didn't think so. Ed Hillary didn't think so. Steve Jobs didn't think so. Think about it. Thomas Edison didn't think so. Alexander Graham Bell. See, we listen to them and think, well, they're different. No, they're not different. They're exactly the same as you and me. Now look here for a moment. I've given you the basics about the mind. Now let's look at this. Today, you're being inundated with information in your conscious mind from radio, from other people, from TVs, from newspapers. And you have the ability, because you have a reasoning factor, you have the ability to think. And you can say, I don't want that information. I'm not accepting that. And you can cause it to go away. But you know something? We don't do that. Not only don't we not do that, we don't even think about it. We don't even think. Why? We leave our mind wide open. And it goes right in. What do we say about the subconscious? It has no ability to reject. It must accept. Why do we do that? Because we're programmed to do it. That's why we do it. That's our paradigm. How did that happen? How did it happen that we go around leaving our subconscious mind wide open? Because it's what's going on in the subconscious that dictates what you do. Well, let's look at it for a minute. Let's close the window here and open it over here. Now, I'm hoping you're paying attention to this because this could be worth millions to you. It can cause you to live in a healthier body. It can cause you to build your business. See, this is you as an infant. Not today. This is you as an infant. And what's going on? Whatever's happening around you goes right into your subconscious mind. And it just keeps going in over and over and over. See, you're programmed genetically. That's why you look like your relatives. There's a little particle of energy from mom and a little particle of energy from dad came together. And that was the nucleus of you. And 280 days later, you made your debut on the planet. But you have all that DNA, moms and dads, going back for generations. You're genetically programmed. Many of your beliefs have just been passed from one generation to the next. and many of them are absolutely ridiculous. Well, you see, your self-image is formed when you're in your little life, when you don't even have the ability to think. Now, self-image is just one idea. A multitude of ideas are a paradigm. Look at the people we're surrounded by. Robert Heinlein said, in absence of clearly defined goals, we become strangely loyal to performing daily trivia until ultimately we become enslaved by it. Now think about that. In absence of clearly defined goals, we become strangely loyal to performing daily trivia until ultimately we become enslaved by it. Now think of the number of people that you know that are enslaved to daily trivia. They talk about nothing. They never accomplish anything. They get the same results. If they're short money now, they were short a year ago. They were short a year before that. They're forever getting a car on payment. The idea of going writing a check is just out of their mind. Why? Well, you see, that's probably what the people were doing that we surrounded by as we were little kids. And the ideas that just keep going in over and over and over again form the paradigm. A paradigm is nothing but a multitude of ideas that are fixed in the subconscious mind. And so here we are, as hard as it is to believe, 20, 30, 50, 60 years later, living exactly the same as we were programmed when we were little kids. Do you know that most people on welfare are fourth, fifth generation welfare recipients? It's rather strange. Now, what do? Well, we leave this situation and we go to school. What does school do? Well, let's look at it. School gave us valuable knowledge. However, school never taught us anything about paradigms. Therefore, we frequently do not do what we already know how to do. Now think, superior knowledge. Think about it. Inferior results. What does that do? That causes confusion and frustration. Now think about this for a moment. We've gathered great knowledge, but we know nothing about the paradigm. So watch here. Here's the drawing. There's the model. There's all the knowledge we got in school. We've got it packed in there. But you know something? It doesn't equate to the results we're getting. You're going to find absolutely brilliant people getting very bad results. You're going to find people that are brilliant. They know exactly what to do, but they don't do it. Why? It's the paradigm that controls the behavior. Now listen, I've studied this for over half a century. I had no formal education. I had no business experience. I earned millions of dollars. I'm 81 years old. I've got more energy than most people that are 21. I have a sister-in-law that says he's 81, he looks about 60, and he's actually like he's about 30. Well, she got that down pretty good because that's just about the way it is. Why? It's because I understand how to use the mind. Now look at, if you want to change your results, if you really want to change the results, there's something that you've got to do. You've got to know how to change the paradigm. And if you don't change the paradigm, I don't care what, nothing's going to happen. You'll find people going back to school because they think if I got some more knowledge. No, you're not short on knowledge. We're short on behavioral patterns. And that's really what we have to do. Let's think about it. Let's really think about it. Paradigms. What are they? A paradigm is a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior. Now think about that. And here's what you want to remember. Almost all of our behavior is habitual. When you get up in the morning, you follow a routine. If you're married, your spouse follows a routine and you don't mess around with the other person's routine. That's just the way it works. Now let's take a look at what a paradigm is and how it controls us. This is really important. Your paradigm. Let's look at the areas of your life your paradigm has enormous influence over. Your paradigm controls your perception. Paradigm programming. I'll frequently go up to a person in a seminar and I'll say, if I ask the audience what color you were, what would they tell me? They'd say I'm black. Okay? And you'd say, I'm white. But the truth is you're not black and I'm not white. Now everybody looks at me, where's he going? The person's skin may be dark, but it's not black. My skin may be light, but it's not white. If you ever saw a white person, you'd probably scream and run. See, the problem is we don't see with our eyes. We see through our eyes. We see with cells of recognition in our brain. Our perception is messed up. We see something that isn't even there. And even after I say that, they say, no, he's black. No, not white. That's what you see. You see with cells of recognition in your brain. Well, when you shift your perception, everything in your world changes. You see, my perception of what I was capable of doing, like that, started to change when I had the right information. See, you've got to spend time and you've got to spend money if you're going to change you. Back around 1970, Alvin Toffler wrote a book called Future Shock. And the idea behind it was the future is going to shock people. And it was a prediction of what was going to happen over the next 40 or 50 years. And I remember reading a book. I was working at Nightingale Conant in Chicago at the time, and it was quite a popular book, and everybody said, wow, this couldn't possibly happen. Well, we thought Alvin Toffler was really daydreaming, and he really was, but he fell short. We did far more than what he projected. Now, recently, Toffler came out again. And he said the illiterate of the 21st century are not going to be the people who cannot read and write. They're going to be the people who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Now think about that. They're going to be the people who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. This is really important. Our paradigm causes our perception. Our paradigm controls our use of time. Everybody gets exactly the same amount of time. They get all there is. You see, it's what we do with our time that makes the difference. One individual will accomplish more in a week than another person will in a year. Some people can earn more in a day than other people will in a year. How are you utilizing your time? People buy time management programs. That is a joke. Time can't be managed. No one can manage time. The only thing we can manage is activities. Now think about it. Do you know the paradigm controls our creativity? We'll find people say, well, I'm really not creative. Why do we have great big companies and little wee creative departments? Because we're raised to believe some people are creative and some are not. Everybody is creative. We have these creative faculties. What we want to do is learn how to develop them. Think. How about being effective? Our perception controls, or our paradigm controls our effectiveness. You see, the paradigm is a program in our subconscious mind that controls the vibration we're in. Therefore, it controls what we do, and it controls what we attract into our life. Our paradigm controls our productivity. It literally controls our productivity. As I shift my paradigm, my productivity goes right through the roof. Our paradigm controls our logic. And you know something? Logic is that ceiling we keep banging against. When those two young bicycle mechanics back around 1903 from Dayton, Ohio said, we're going to get a plane in the air, everybody thought they were out of their mind, but they got it in the air. Now somebody said, but they only kept it up there for 14 seconds. It was a matter of perception. They said, we not only got it in the air, we kept it in the air for 14 seconds. And look at today. You know, last week I flew to Dubai on Emirates, and I had a little room to myself. I had a shower. I had a shower going over and I had a shower coming back. The floor is heated when you get out of the shower. This is at 35,000, 40,000 feet, going a few hundred miles an hour. Long ways from where the paradigm was changed by the Wright brothers. The whole world believed we couldn't fly. They went through logic. Logic has changed. The world believed that you couldn't get to the top of Mount Everest. I had the good fortune of working with Edmund Hillary on 2 or 3 occasions. The only difference in him and anybody else is his size. He was a big man. He's gone now, God bless him, but he changed a lot of paradigms. Your paradigm also controls your ability to earn money. That's right. When you change your paradigm like that, your income starts to change. You see, you should spend everything you've got and all the time you've got to really get in and understand this concept of paradigms, because it'll change your life. Now look at, you're boxed in the way you are. There's actually a box around all these areas. You try and you try and you try to get more out of the day, you try and earn more money, but we're boxed in. We're boxed in. And I don't care how hard you try, you hit those walls. And next month will be much the same as this month. I could go to any sales manager, and I guarantee you, just go on their computer, and they will tell me what any one of their salespeople are going to do in August. And they won't be far off. They can predict what the sales are going to be. Why? Because people don't change much. You don't change much unless you understand paradigm. And then you can change anything. Now look at it. When you decide to change the paradigm, at that moment, watch, the walls come tumbling down. That doesn't mean anything changes, but now it can change. And I want you to just imagine how your entire life will change as you begin improving any or all of these areas. My goodness, I watch people and the change is enormous. Imagine. The change can be huge. The change can be huge. And here's something else. When you change the paradigm, the change is permanent. I have never gone back. Never gone back. I keep going ahead. I keep earning more. I keep having more fun. I keep becoming more productive. Think of it this way for a moment. Let's suppose you just mastered the use of your time. You managed your activities. When you wake up in the morning like that, you're productive. You really get things flying. Have you any idea if that was the only thing you changed, how much more money you'd earn? It would be enormous. You know all you need to do? All you need to do is make a decision. It's so simple and so misunderstood. Now, of course, you're going to be laughed at by almost everyone. When you tell them that you're involved in this program or you're going to do that, they'll laugh at you. You know, I like what James Cook said. He said, do just once what others say you can't do, and you'll never pay attention to their limitations again. Just do once what others say you can't do. I really don't pay any attention to what anybody tells me when they tell me I can't do something. I know I can. Now, I'm going to take you through a process here that it's earth-shattering if you really understand it. I want you to let that represent you. Now, the X represents, that's the algebraic equation for the unknown. Everybody has a paradigm. Everybody. I've got one. And when you change it, then you've got to change it again. You're forever upgrading it. You see, your spiritual DNA is perfect. You were created in God's image. You've got phenomenal potential locked up within you, deep reservoirs of talent and ability that you can bring to the surface. We're going to say the paradigm represents X. The paradigm controls the vibration that this thing is in. The body is a molecular structure. It's a mass of molecules and a very high speed of vibration. Your body vibrates so fast it appears to be still. If you had a Curlian photography or a Curlian camera, you could actually photograph the energy leaving the body. Your body's in a very high speed of vibration, and the vibration dictates what you attract into your life. What kind of thoughts do we think? There's a power flowing into our consciousness. We can think anything we want. We think thoughts that are in harmony with the paradigm. Now, I want you to listen really carefully. The paradigm controls the vibration. On a conscious level, we say the vibration is feeling. Somebody says, how do you feel? You say, I don't know, I don't feel that good today. Now, what they could say is, I'm consciously aware that I'm in a bit of a negative vibration. Or if they say, I feel phenomenal, they could say, I'm consciously aware of being in a very positive vibration. We choose thoughts that are in harmony with the paradigm because it doesn't upset the apple cart. It keeps us in the same vibration. Now, people are in a vibration that's giving them results they don't want, but they're comfortable in it. That's what you call the comfort zone. They're thinking thoughts that are in harmony with what they're doing. They may not like the results, but they feel comfortable. Now, this is a process. We're going to go ahead. So watch this for a moment. Now, that was called bondage. This one's called reason. We're going to say a why idea comes into the conscious mind. Now, somebody may be giving you a why idea about how you could change the direction of your life right now. I'm giving you one right now. I'm going to ask you to make a decision. It's a why idea. Some people have a why idea. My brother-in-law, when he was in his early 50s, he had built 3 safety supply companies for other people. He had run them and built them. An opportunity came for him to buy a small safety supply company. They were scared. My sister and my brother-in-law were scared. They were in their early 50s. They mortgaged their house, they took all their savings, and they bought this little company. They were scared stiff. I said, go for it. Well, today that company's a multi-million-dollar company. They're sort of semi-retired. Their son and his sons run the company. It's operating all over North America. Very successful company. See, it was a why idea. Now, many people entertain why ideas. I get a why idea. Maybe I'm going to move to another city. I get a why idea. I'm going to buy something, buy a new car. I'm going to quit my job and start a business. That's a why idea. As long as the idea remains in the conscious mind, everything's cool. Nothing happens. Yet when you get emotionally involved in the idea, when you go to act on it, that all hell breaks loose. Now let's look at this. Here we are here. The why idea is impressed upon the X-type energy. You move into what's called an XY vibration. A barrier comes bouncing up, we call a terror barrier. Worry, fear, and anxiety strike, and like that, you're right back where? Into bondage. That happens at warp speed. You've got to realize you're dealing with the central nervous system, the most complex electrical system known to man. And that's what you're dealing with. When you get onto a track that you're not in harmony with, everything goes crazy. This is what Joseph Campbell says. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. You should never, absolutely never ask someone else what they think you should do unless that person has already done what you want to do. Go to the experts for advice. If somebody asks me, should I mortgage my house and buy a business? I'd say, is that what you want? Then go for it. Because I'm going to tell you, I would not want to be real old, tied in a wheelchair or in a cribbed bed, my mind as sharp as a tack, but my body spent, looking back over my life saying, gosh, I wonder what would happen if we had done this. I wonder what would happen if we had done that. I wonder if I had listened to Proctor that time that I saw him on the computer. I wonder what would have happened. If only I could, but you can't. Wouldn't it be much better if you ended up there at the end of the road, reliving all those beautiful moves? What do? Look it. When you want to do something, you know that barrier is coming up. When you want to do something that you've never done, when you're going off into a space you've never been before, crash right through that terror barrier. Just go zingo, right through. Now, when you do that, does that eliminate the fear? No, it doesn't. But at least you know what's causing the fear. You see, you've got to go where you've never been. Steve Jobs put it very well. You cannot connect the dots looking ahead. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. The people that make it, they're going into the unknown all the time. Now, if you're following someone who really knows what they're talking about, I really know what I'm talking about when it comes to this subject. I train psychiatrists in this. I train managers in some of the largest companies in the world. I've helped, I don't know how many people become very wealthy. You've got to go through that terror barrier. And when you do that, everything beautiful starts to happen. Now I'm going to show you another thing. You're going to make a decision to do that. And when you keep impressing that over and over, the fear's still there. But one day, the old conditioning's gone. And now you're really comfortable in your new spot. Now you've experienced that in your life. You've already experienced it. Now you know what happens? The why turns into action. You start all over again. And that's how you keep going up, up, up. All the days of your life. Keep getting better. Better is a nice word. But you got to make decisions. Now I'm going to show you something about decisions most people never, ever learn. Look at this for a moment. Let these lines represent levels of vibration. Now, levels of vibration are more commonly referred to as frequencies, and you and I think on frequencies. We think on frequencies. So let's say that these puffy little clouds represent our thoughts. And our thoughts produce our results. That's where we started, isn't it? Take a look at the results. Why did we get this? It's because of the way we're thinking. So we keep thinking this way. We're going to keep getting the same results. But we say, that's where I want to go. That's where I want to go. I'm going to do that as soon as I get the money. I'm going to do that as soon as the kids are out of school. I'm going to do that as soon as what? The results aren't going to change because the thinking changes. You see, you've got to say, I'm doing that. And the second you make the decision, you flip your brain onto the frequency that you have to be on to think the thoughts you have to think to get the good you want. Just think in your past. Look in your past. You'll say, I want that. It didn't matter that you didn't have the money. You say, I'm going to do that. And you'd always find the money. Go take a look in your house. Take a look at all the stuff in your house. Most of it you don't need. You know why you got it? Because you wanted it. When you really want something, when you say, I'm going there, I'm going to make that happen, I make the decision, boom, 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 you get onto a new frequency. Do you know, I've started, I don't know how many companies. I've never had a business plan. I just have the picture, and then I go for it. You never heard Martin Luther King say, we have a strategy. No. He said, we have a dream. You got to have a dream. When you have a dream, then you act like the person you want to become. You see yourself already with it. Now look at. You've got to think. You really have to think. Now, you're aware. You may not be really aware. I mean, I went over that fairly fast. But now you know how to make decisions. It's not whether you can afford it. It's not whether you have the time. It's, do you really want it? We had a lady come to a seminar in 2006, right around the time The Secret hit. And she started to hear me. I was teaching actually a program, The Science of Getting Rich. She had never heard somebody talk like me before. Now, this lady wasn't just some ordinary gal. She was a lawyer, a banking lawyer. She had graduated from university, the #1 banking lawyer in all of the United States. She had been educated in some of the best schools in America and in Great Britain. She graduated, she had bachelor's, a master's, a doctorate. She graduated right at the top. So naturally, the big firms on Wall Street grabbed her. And she worked on Wall Street for quite a while. Top firms. Then she went back west because she was from Seattle. And she went into business with her dad, who was also a banking lawyer. Then he left to take over a bank, and she took the business over, and she built a banking practice. She'd done hundreds of millions, literally billions of dollars in business, buying banks, selling banks, merging banks, IPOs. But she had never heard what I was teaching. And she made up her mind she was going to learn everything that I taught. She bought all of our programs. She became a consultant with our company. Then she made up her mind she was going to be my closest advisor. Today, she is my business partner. And she was listening to all this, and she was thinking of the boardrooms that she was in when they were trying to merge banks, and they couldn't get along. They couldn't figure out how to make decisions. And she thought if they only had this information. So she made up her mind she was going to put a program together. And she studied everything, and she put a program together. It was a phenomenal program that would help people change paradigms. It's called Thinking into Results. This program is designed to change paradigms. It's all over the world today. It's a self-contained seminar. You study this for 6 months, you'll study it for the rest of your life. Your world will never be the same again. Never. Don't look at somebody else and say, what are you going to do? What they're going to do makes no difference. It makes no difference. You see, it's your paradigm that you want to think about. It's not their paradigm, it's your paradigm. You make up your mind that you're going to change you. You didn't sit down to look at this by accident. You have been attracted to this, and it was attracted to you. This can change your life just like mine. Look, I've gone into prisons with this information, maximum security prisons. I've gone into schools. I went into the Prudential of America, the largest insurance company in the world. We raised our sales by hundreds of millions of dollars. One senior VP said that he thinks we put it over $1 billion. I've traveled all over the world with this, literally all over the world. You have an opportunity here to really study in depth what I'm talking to you about here. If you really want to make things happen, I guarantee you this will help you do it. And when you get into this, you're with us forever. And I guarantee you, you're going to need a telescope to look back and see where you were. This program is designed to change paradigms. Sandra Gallagher is the lady that invented it. She's the president and chief executive officer of our company, the Proctor Gallagher Institute. She's my business partner. She's absolutely brilliant. And she took everything that I teach and put it in a very organized manner that changes paradigms. Now let's remember what a paradigm is. A paradigm is a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior, and almost all of our behavior is habitual. Now when people hit a bit of a tough time, what's the first thing they do? They start to lower their standard of living. That is a terrible error. A terrible error. Never let that happen. Don't ever lower your standard of living to meet your income. Make up your mind right now that you're only going to think of how to do it and you're going to do it. You're going to take your income up to meet your standard of living. I'm in a beautiful studio here. It's in my own backyard. I can run 4 cameras in here all at the same time. I can broadcast all over the world in here. I was sitting in my backyard under an umbrella, and I was thinking, I could build a studio back there. And I got the beautiful idea in my mind. It's all lit up. I've got the sound. I've got everything. And I'm streaming right to you from the studio. It's about 1,200 square feet. Absolutely beautiful. All soundproof. Top equipment. Do you know why? I had a dream. I'm living in it. I had a dream that I was going to do this business for the rest of my life. I visited Earl Nightingale one time in Chicago at 333 North Michigan in the early 60s. And I spent an hour with him. And when I was finished, I said, Earl, what's the real deal? Well, he says, there's no deal. He says, there's no secret. He said, you just simply figure out what you love to do and dedicate your life to it. I got so excited right at that moment because I knew exactly what I'd love to do. I'd love to do what he was doing. That was around 1963, 64. In 1968, I left my own company. I was earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, over $1 million some years. I took a job for $18,000 a year. 5 years later, I was earning $33,000. But I was doing what I wanted to do. I was working with my mentor. I got an education that you couldn't buy. And you know something? I've been repaid time and time again. 5 years later, I decided, I took this pen in my hand, and I said, I'm going to build a company that operates all over the world. The Proctor Gallagher Institute is in 100 different countries. This is the best information you're going to find. I don't know anybody else that's teaching this. I really don't. Not the way we're teaching it. People often say Bob Proctor is a motivational speaker. I'm not a motivational speaker. I don't ever want to be I think I'm a teacher. I teach people what paradigms are, how they're formed, how they can be changed. I'm under contract right now, or our company is, to write a new book, Paradigm Shift, for Tarcher Penguin, largest publishing company in the world. I love this subject. Don't ask anyone what they think you should do. Make a decision. You're going to do this. You're going to get involved in this. I don't care if you have to go and borrow the money from your grandmother. You're going to make a decision right now, today, that you are never going to lower your standard of living. You have the potential that God gave you. You've got all the potential in the world. Anything anybody else does, you're quite capable of doing. But you've got to make a decision to do it. And don't worry about where the money or everything's going to come from. It'll come. When the Maharishi Yogi decided to take transcendental meditation to the world, somebody said, where's the money going to come from? It's going to cost a lot of money. He said, wherever it is right now. When you make a decision, you'll always find the money. The way will always show itself. I want to thank you for giving me your attention. I think it's fairly obvious I love doing this. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have.